Have you ever found yourself complaining about your business results and thinking, if only I could change this or that, or if only the market was better, or if only there were more decent workers out there, things would be better? The truth is that for most business owners, the cause of their frustration are three unhelpful attitudes that keep them poor, frustrated, and unhappy. Tune into today's episode where we pull apart these three toxic attitudes that most business owners don't realize are killing their businesses. Alrighty, welcome to the podcast. Here with your host, Tony Fraser-Jones. Cool to hang out today with my buddy, co-host, Phil Smith.
Yeah, good to hang, man. We got these comfortable chairs.
It's nice. How's it hanging?
Oh, pretty good. I'm a lot more comfortable than normally on that stool, which is really good.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'll look after you there, buddy.
Thanks, man. It's good for the back.
Tough gig for you.
That's it.
What are we talking about today?
Well, we're talking about why some people just seem to get success and other people don't. Obviously, despite the fact that they're working just as hard, if not harder. Luck does have a part to play, but it's not the only reason. And it turns out there are some, hidden things inside your head that really do make a huge difference.
There is. And look, we've noticed that there are three really toxic attitudes that they separate the successful people from those who are, let's say, not so successful. Those people who just struggle to get by, those people who just grind it out. And the trouble with this is it's very difficult to see from, if you're inside the glass to see out. And so these attitudes are really hidden, and I think as people we don't notice them, and we don't notice how much of an effect they have on us. And so what we want to do today is really pull apart these three attitudes, name them so we can understand what they are, and then what's the anecdote, or what do we need to do differently to actually get on top of these things, because this is super important, because attitudes, they drive everything, and you can try and change your what you're doing, but if the attitudes don't change, then the results don't tend to change long term. So this is important stuff.
Definitely important. I'm sure you got a story to kick us off.
I do have a story. I have a story about two bricklayers or masons. They're building a cathedral way back in the day, mate. Just before you were born, but
are they dead just now?
They are dead just now. I was obviously alive back in the dark ages.
Sure. Were you riding your dinosaur or what?
That's right. My steed. So there's two stonemasons, and one of them. He approached work with a very, let's say, heavy heart and a pretty surly attitude, thinking about how heavy they were, how rough they were on his hands, how harsh the sun was, and the fact that this was the same stuff every day, day after day. It was just an endless, tiresome chore. And his back ached, and he complained, and he was one of those people who you could see that cloud of anger and frustration around them. You know those people?
Face like a drop pie.
That's the one. And then there was the other mason. Same task, but he had a different outlook on life. So he saw every brick or rock, stone that he was putting into this cathedral as a step towards building something that was really magnificent. Really careful in his placement. He imagined the built cathedral, the whole thing done. And his work wasn't about placing stones, but he would smile to himself and say, "Hey, I'm building a cathedral. This is a place where people are going to actually find solace and inspiration long after I'm gone." Now, building these cathedrals, it's not like today where it takes, 18 months to knock up a skyscraper. This thing takes like 50 years to build, sometimes longer. And so 25 years after these two masons started working, they're still on this site, which is what happened. That's a work on this forever. But one of them is still just putting bricks with the same surly, broken attitude. The other is now the master mason in charge of the whole site. And the one who had the good attitude, he's the one who's progressed. The one with the unhelpful attitude, the surly attitude, he's the one who's gone nowhere. And that's pretty instructive for how life plays out as well. So we want to dig into what's the difference between these two fellas, and how that applies to our businesses and our life as well.
Yeah, big time. And I suppose if you don't get these three attitudes right, it really does affect your life. You run into some issues.
Yeah. The first thing is, if you want to grow, it's really hard to. You'll want to make changes, but you'll find yourself just not making it happen. And, in terms of your business, you'll grow more slowly, you'll get less clients. You'll actually find it harder to attract the right people, the right team members, and to keep team members. You'll make less money, and you'll have to work harder for less, which is frustrating. And that leads to exhaustion, it leads to bitterness, it leads to frustration, and it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. And I think that the cool thing about what we're talking about today is we're talking about, your business, your contracting, your tradie business, but actually this stuff applies to everything in your life. It applies to your family relationships, your friends, your health, everything. So if you get it right in one area, then it's going to help in all areas of your life as well, which I'm all up for. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely important behaviors here and attitudes to have. So let's dig into these, man. Like, why are attitudes so powerful?
Well, I think before we get into what the attitudes are, attitudes kind of sit below the surface, and your attitudes drive the way you see the world, which drives the behaviors that you take, and obviously the behaviors that you take drive the results that you get. And so it's kind of like if you think of an iceberg, your behavior's on the top, you can see it, but there's all this stuff underneath the surface, and your attitudes sit there. And you can try and change the top, but if you don't change the bottom, often you don't get the change you want. So that's why it's super, super important.
Yeah, critical. So let's get into the big three.
Number one, the first unhelpful attitude is going to keep you poor, broken is blaming other people. It sounds obvious, right? But actually it's not so obvious, because blame is a sneaky little fella. Like, blame jumps in all over the place, and often in ways we don't think about. Like an example is it's really easy to say, oh, the economy's slow at the moment. That's why we're struggling in business. Now, there's some truth to that, but what can you actually do about it? And as soon as you just blame the economy, it has the effect of, well, it's not my responsibility anymore. There's nothing I can do about it. So it puts you in a really unhelpful, unresourceful, weak, passive mindset, which means you kind of, basically if you take that attitude, you end up giving up.
Well, one thing I think that's really bad about that as well is that people will dress up their blame as acceptance as well. And they say, like, the economy's no good, I can't get hold of materials, things are getting more expensive, it's hard to hire at the moment because of the state of the economy. People aren't building houses because interest rates are up. All of these kinds of examples of things that they're blaming externally, let's say within the economy, and then they'll tell themselves, well, I'm just accepting reality. When in actual reality, you're not accepting reality, you're pointing blame and causing inaction for yourself. So, true acceptance would be, hey, I can see that there are these factors, and so I'm going to adapt what I'm doing in order to, find a way around some of my problems, or see different ways of doing stuff. Maybe people are building less houses, so how can I make sure I'm the one who's building the houses that are getting built? Or, people are building less houses, so maybe I'll target some other types of work, some repeat maintenance, or maybe some other types of projects around the house, or maybe some commercial work or whatever. But the thing is that you're going to target other stuff. Whereas if you tell yourself you're accepting the situation and actually you're blaming, then all you do is just sit around on your hands doing bugger all, and getting bugger all for it. And that's where it becomes a real problem.
Yeah. And what blame does, it basically takes the control in your life from you and you give it to someone else or something else. And so we've talked about this on the pod before, but there's this really important concept. It's called the locus of control. And basically what the locus of control is, if there's an external locus of control, if you have an external locus of control, that means that you believe the results you get in life are determined by things outside yourself, i.e. someone or someone else has got control over the results you get. Versus an internal locus of control is where you're like, well, okay, I know there's stuff going on out there, but actually I'm the master of my own destiny. I'm the captain of my own ship, and I can take action that's going to generate the results that I want, which is a completely different animal. And even me saying that, I feel different. When I say it, talk about external locus of control, I feel like flat, kind of like giving up. When I talk about the fact that I can control things inside myself with my own actions, I feel energetic, powerful. I feel like it's just a complete flip.
Yeah, well, absolutely. When you have that external locus of control, you're taking all of your own power and you're giving it to other people and things. And as a result, you feel like a prisoner, really. You're completely under the thumb of just whatever else is happening. And that's gonna beat you down, both mentally and emotionally. You're going to end up in a position where you feel like you can't do anything to change your lot in life. Bad things happen and you just have to lump it. And it makes you feel like a real prisoner or a slave to other influences, and there's nothing you can do about it, which is a super depressing place to be.
It is depressing, and when we're working with the members of our $1 Million Tradie program and coaching people, and people are in a tough situation, and for sure they our members get in tough situations just like every other business owner. The thing that we do is they're talking about all the stuff they want to change, and we're like, let's just bring that back to what we can actually control today.
Yeah.
And so if maybe you've had some team members leave and you're short of employees, and you're like, well, I need someone today. It's like, well, you can't control that.
Yeah.
Like, that's something out there. But what can you do today to help with this situation? Well, what I can do today is I can get write a good job ad, and I can put a good job ad up on one of the job directories. That's something I can control. If you do that, you're actually going to feel good.
Well, making this change is also just really important for your own personal accountability. Like, if you think about it, it's really hard to hold yourself accountable to something you actually cannot even influence, let alone control. For example, if I've held myself accountable to, well, hey, I'm going to get a new team member today in the field. I need someone else on the tools. If I'm trying to hold myself accountable to getting the team member, making the hire, then I'm going to end up whipping myself for having not done it when that was outside of my control. Maybe I could influence it, but I can't control it. Now, on the other hand, if I'm holding myself accountable to a behavior I can control, for example, listing the job ad or shortlisting candidates that I've had come in, or trying a different platform to put the job ad on. These are things I can absolutely control, and so when I'm holding myself accountable, I actually can win the game I'm playing, and therefore it's fair to myself to actually push myself towards having done these things. Whereas if you try, because I think deep down we all want to try, right? And the hard thing is that when you feel like you're trying, you're putting in the effort, but you feel like you're losing, you just want to make sure that you're playing a game that is actually winnable. Or otherwise, you're actually going to exacerbate that downward spiral of negativity and actually just get even worse results. And if we're looking at blaming things, we're talking about blaming the economy. I mean, like, this ties into blaming people as well, right? This job went off the rails because, this one guy, Mike, who's absolutely useless, made all these mistakes. We had all these callbacks, lots of rework, jobs blown out by, hours and hours and hours. I mean, I was talking to one of the clients yesterday, job blown out by 600 hours. This is over $100,000 that he's lost already. I think it was more like 160 grand he had lost already on this job. And he's blaming these 2 or 3 guys. And the really hard thing is that with blaming them, he's missing the opportunity to see what he could do differently, or what could be done differently next time, or where he could influence their learning and training to make sure these things don't happen again, or other opportunities within that same job, because that job's ongoing. There's other variations he might be able to get out of it later to recoup some of his costs. Now, there's lots of things he could still do. Like, he's still in the fight, but the hard thing is that when you're pointing the finger at others, you actually take yourself out of the fight. You become a spectator where your shadow is still in the ring getting its ass kicked, but you are outside just watching, and that's a really unresourceful place to be.
Well, and I can 100% guarantee with every problem that you're facing in your business or in your life, you are part of the equation. You are not without any blame. Like, you are not 0% responsible for that result. You are at least more than 0% responsible, which means you can actually have some influence if you focus on the stuff that you can control.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so blame takes that away. It means there's a lack of personal accountability. It means that you stop trying to solve problems. You don't get better. And I think you talked about the impact on morale. Like, it affects your morale because you feel powerless. But your blaming attitude, that stuff rubs off on other people, like, massively. And you actually end up creating a culture of blame in your organization or your relationships or wherever it is. And a culture of blame is toxic, and that just leads to poor performance overall.
Well, you're showing other people what to do.
Yeah, you're training them on how not to behave.
Exactly. And, try as you might, you think maybe you guys don't learn that well. Trust me, they do. And they're learning this off you very, very quickly and putting it into practice. And you might also think, hey, you know what, but I didn't go and blame Mike to his face. I talked shit to Jeff, the estimator, behind his back. And it's like, hey, look, I know that's bad, but what you might not realize as well is that even if you're not blaming people openly, anyone who does hear or even perceive of your blaming thoughts and blaming words and basically blaming attitude, what it teaches them is, even if they are not the one to blame, it teaches them that that's what you do and think behind people's back.
Yeah, when things go wrong. So Jeff's now going to blame someone else when something goes wrong in his situation.
And not only that, but Jeff now knows that you blame Mike for all this stuff, and maybe you didn't say that to Mike. So now what Jeff knows is, he's like, well, if I'm getting blamed, I'm also not going to be told, but I know this is definitely going to happen behind my back because I'm seeing it. And so it just creeps in. It's these little things that happen, little tells, little, side comments, little eye rolls, body language, even that, like, even if you're not saying it, it really does creep into your culture and just absolutely destroys that morale.
Yeah.
And it's bad.
I've heard something, I'm not sure where I heard it, but it was in the context of relationships, with your significant other. And we talk about, it's got to be a 50-50 thing. We've got to do 50-50. But this person was saying, that's bollocks. To have a successful relationship, it needs to be a 100% thing. So you're both 100% responsible for the result,
Mm.
which means that you take complete and utter ownership of what's happening. And if you both turn up doing that, well, obviously it's going to be, it's going to be a good thing. And I think that's a good approach to have.
Yeah, well, I suppose that's the inverse of blame, right?
That's right, and that's the alternative. So blaming other people is incredibly toxic to your success. It will damage your success. It will prevent you from progressing to where you want to go. And the alternative is just 100% ownership of all the results you get, even if you can't control everything that's going on, but you can control part of it, and that's what you need to focus on.
Yeah, absolutely. So should we dig into number 2?
Number 2 is an interesting one. Number 2 attitude is fear of making mistakes. And this is huge. Fear of making mistakes, fear of failure really is what it is. It's that thought process of, what if this doesn't work? What if I can't afford this? What if, I waste money? What if, it's the what if stuff.
Yeah,
fear
this crops up everywhere, right?
All the time.
The big one is that comes up all the time that I see is hiring. What if I take on this role and it doesn't work out, and now I've got an extra mouth to feed and don't have the work to actually keep it going? Or what if I take on that estimator and then I've just got this big overhead and I don't even win any more work? It's what if it fails? What if it doesn't work? And it feeds into everything. What if I put this QA checklist in place and it doesn't even improve efficiency? It doesn't wipe up any mistakes. It's just another 5-10 minutes everyone spends at the end of the job, and now I'm just hemorrhaging money in hours. Like, it doesn't matter. Whenever you implement anything, there is a chance it won't work.
Yeah. What if I approach this general contractor or this builder and they tell me to sod off?
Yeah, exactly.
Fear of rejection is kind of the same thing in here. So it's that fear of it not working out.
What if I present these core values and the team laugh in my face and say that's fruity and I don't like it?
That's right.
Yeah. But the thing is it doesn't matter what you do. Anything you do in your business, in your life, anything you do, there's a chance that the action you take doesn't yield the result you wanted. In other words, there's a chance it doesn't work.
I'd go further. A lot of what you do won't work.
Yeah,
100%
absolutely.
won't work. In fact, you will fail, probably sometimes more than you succeed.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Well, actually, the only way you get something to work really well is probably to have iterated it a few times. Screwed it up, tweaked it, tried it again. That's still not quite right. Change it, try it again until you get it perfect. Like, everything that's been done perfectly in life has probably been tweaked a few times to get there.
It has.
And so I think the thing is there's always that risk it's not going to work. In fact, there's a reasonable chance that whatever you try is not going to work, especially if it's the first time you've tried it. But where we can really get into hot water is when we fear that chance, because the hard part is it is there, and there are often negative consequences when you try something that doesn't work. But if you're so afraid of that you don't even try, well, then you're just going to have the same results you're already getting. Everything will be the same. Nothing will change for the better or the worse.
This comes out in various ways. It comes out in the actual. If you think about changes that you've tried to make, you can. If you really think to yourself, you'll know sometimes you actually feel anxious, almost a bit sick. That feeling, I think we all get that. But there's other ones. There's like the over analysis of things. So there's a bunch of you guys listening today will be analyzers, and you'll try and figure out all the details before you take any action. This is the same thing.
Yeah.
You're doing that because you're scared of taking action, and you're trying to cover off every base before you get started.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, you can't. It's impossible. It's just not possible because there's just stuff you don't know.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that you pointed out there, Phil, is that you will fail, and the thing is, the first time you do something is the worst you are at it.
Yeah, absolutely. You'll never be worse than the first time
you do
try.
it.
Yeah.
So that's when you're most likely to fail. And so often you'll try something that doesn't work, and it gives you the feedback that you were expecting, and so you start to sort of live a smaller life. And the thing about being fearful of making mistakes, fearful of trying stuff, fearful of failure, it leads to a small life, a small business, a small experience of life, because you just limit yourself, and that's not a way to live. That's not going to get you what you want out of your business or your life in general.
Yeah.
And if you think about kids, we all learned how to walk. Well, we didn't just get up and walk. We started crawling, and then we'd toddle along the side of the couch, and we'd fall over on our bums that many times until we actually figured out how to do it. Well, business is a bit like that.
Yeah.
You can't go from having 2 people in a van up to having 100 people in 3 minutes. Like, there's so much learning that goes on along that way, and so much failure that happens in that process that without trying stuff and failing it, you just won't get there.
Yeah, and I think you really hit on an important point back there, Tone, about overanalyzation and trying to get things right. I mean, like, see it all the time. People try to get a complete and comprehensive, perfect operations manual before they get an ops manager, and it's like just get the ops manager, man. Like
They can help you write the manual.
They'll help you write the manual. And secondly, is you're never ever going to finish that task. That's a never ending task. So you actually can't finish it, and so as a result, you'll never get the ops manager. And at the end of the day, the ops manager will help you run the team. The ops manual is a tool of that role. So people throw these barriers up because they're just trying to get it perfect, or they'll try to get the perfect job description, or they'll try to, really think of every little variable before they even try something. People try to get the perfect KPIs for a salesperson or a CSA, customer service rep, before they hire the person. And I'm like, look, sometimes you actually just need to try it for a bit and then tweak. I mean, you actually cannot do enough research to know how to be good at something before you try it. And this is the same in any skill. I always think about tennis because I suck at tennis. But like, if I watched...
I knew you were going to do the tennis thing. Let's do it.
I'm going to do a different version of it today. But like, put it this way. It's like, look, if I watch every tennis match ever played, all right, and I can literally watch every single one and take in all that information, and I read every tennis book ever written, and I'm absolutely the most knowledgeable person on tennis. I listen to every tennis podcast, on and on and on. I take in every piece of tennis information in the world. I still cannot play tennis until I pick that racket up. There is no getting around that. And the first time I hit the ball, it still sucks. Doesn't matter how much research you did. And so with anything you're scared of making mistakes on, just understand you will be crap the first time, and then you'll be better, and then you'll be better, and you'll be better. And it doesn't matter how much research you do. You can prepare to a point, but there becomes a point of diminishing returns where at some point you have to figuratively pick that racket up and just give it a go. There's no getting around that.
And this is huge, that nothing good happens unless you're prepared to put yourself in an uncomfortable position. I mean, you think about, like asking someone out.
Yeah.
It's pretty nerve-wracking. It's like, what if they say no?
Yeah.
What if they say yes?
Right. Yeah. I mean, you rob yourself of that joy.
That opportunity. And if they say no, it stings for like 2 minutes, and you're like, what? Okay, it's fine.
If they say no, you know what? You'll do better the next time you ask someone out because you probably learn something from it. I mean, and I think people kick themselves on that too hard as well, right? And they punish themselves for when they do make a mistake, which is ridiculous. It's like you need to look for the learning. The mistake's already been made. The damage is already done. Look for the learning, and it's the only benefit you can get. I watched a movie last night, and actually kind of on the dating note, and this young couple, very cute, and they share their first kiss, and immediately the guy asks the girl, "Was it good?" And you saw this look on her face, like, it wasn't. And I'm like, man, like, what do you mean, is it good? Like, of course it wasn't good. It's the first time you've done that, bro. Like, give it another go.
Have another crack.
But it's like, what was he going to do? Like, never kiss the girl? Like, at some point you just actually have to get started, and you'll get better. Don't kick yourself that you weren't awesome the first time. It's fine.
And this is the thing. The people who are very successful in business are great at making mistakes. They just do lots of stuff. And yeah, they have some colossal stuff-ups, but they fix them up and they don't make that mistake again. So I think that the key thing here is just be aware when you're scared of making mistakes and you find yourself sort of really stalled from taking action because you just don't want to muck things up. That's a big problem for you.
Yeah.
And so I think that the thing that we want to do is flip it on its head and understand what the alternative is, and that is to fail forward fast, is to try lots of stuff and to realize that if you don't do stuff, you're thinking about the cost. But what's the cost of not doing stuff? That's the key thing here. The opportunity cost of not taking the action because you're scared is massive. The opportunity cost is actually your future.
Yeah, not to mention the learning you get from those mistakes is invaluable. You cannot pay for that kind of education. You literally can't. It's like we talked before about hiring and dealing with staff. Even with our internal team, and it's like you can put them through leadership courses and all this kind of stuff, and that's great. But actually, until you have to do this stuff, you'll never really get it. And so sometimes letting them do it and letting them fail, it can have expensive repercussions. But actually, it's the best investment we ever make because now they get an education you cannot buy, which you've got to look at things that way as well. Like not only fail forward fast, but embrace the mistakes and embrace the learning and just see every single mistake as a great learning you couldn't have paid for.
Well, and every time you don't do something because you're scared of it, of making a mistake, you are costing yourself your future. This is important to understand. And people do this year after year after year, not even realizing it and wondering why they're not getting progress. It's because they're not actually taking action because they're scared to make a mistake.
100%. Well, let's dig into number 3.
Number 3, this is a biggie. I'm the best person for the job.
That's my favorite one.
Nobody can do it as well as me, and this will absolutely kill your business. It'll keep you poor, broke, and broken.
Oh, yeah.
And look, basically to grow a business, it is a leverage exercise. It's mathematics. You have got your 40 hours a week of work, and if you try and spread that over all aspects of the business, it's impossible. You can only do so much. And so the basic mathematical concept of leverage is, let's get another person, so we've got 80, and then get another person who got 120, etc., and it just becomes exponentially bigger. One person controlling more inputs, which gives you more outputs.
Yeah.
And if you think you're is the only person who can do everything, then you're going to try and be across all of that, and it just blows up. It destroys you. It destroys the people you work for, and it just doesn't compute, basically.
Yeah, I think one of the really hard things with this attitude is that there are honestly times when you are the best person for the job. You are better than everyone else. And honestly, if it's your business, you almost definitely care more than anyone else, which means you put in more effort, you work harder at it, all that. So you probably will do a better job than most other people in your business. But the thing, as you said, you have to realize is you only have so much time and capacity. And so at some point, if you do all the things you're best at, you can't get everything done. And so something has to give somewhere. Not to mention that maybe these guys or girls in your team are not as good as you at some of the tasks. But the only way they can get better is to have a chance to try. Like you didn't come out of the womb on your first day of life as a really accomplished and experienced estimator.
No.
So hey, you might be better at pricing than every other team.
Spreadsheets.
No, that's right. And you certainly didn't come out, with a hard hat on. So one way or another, I think there's stuff that you're going to be really good at, but it's because you've done it for longer and more often than a lot of your other guys. And they need to learn, but you also learn from somewhere. It's not stuff that you can't teach or that cannot be learned. You've just done it for longer. And
this is a huge experience that we've found in our business, and I've realised as well, there's people in our business who do the coaching way better than I do. They do enrollments way better than I do. They do marketing way better than I do, but they didn't at the start. And now that they've done it more often than I have as well.
Yeah.
And are just better.
Yeah.
And it's hard to believe, but it's true.
Yeah. Well,
not good for the ego, but
actually,
it's good for the bank account, which is what we're talking about.
But also,
right?
You've hit an important point here when you say it's not good for the ego. Is at first it's not good for the ego, but after a while, that actually becomes extremely rewarding. Actually, it happened at one of our boot camps, which are these events that we run for our clients. They're amazing. Lots of great learning, lots of great community. They're so much fun, and I'm up on stage. I give a great presentation, if I do say so myself.
Self-praise is no recommendation, but that's cool, bro.
That's cool.
Let it roll.
Anyway, later in the day, we're asking for best bits from the day, and a whole bunch of people said, I really loved Cam's module on social media. It was me, man. Which, the first thing is it hurt the ego a bit because I'm like, come on, man, remember me. But then the second thing was I was like, you know what? They see Cam as such a amazing coach and as such a good point of leadership in the program, and he does such a great job. He also did a great module on that day, but it's actually I was like, why does this hurt? Actually, this is great. This just shows that we've put a lot of effort, and Cam's become as good, if not better than me at this, which is hugely rewarding and freeing. It's like, hey, I don't have to be the one to do this.
And that's the point there. This is about freeing up capacity so your business can grow, because this attitude here, it stalls your capacity. It just means you can't grow, and ego is a part of it. I sort of said that in jest, but it's about thinking you're the best, but sometimes that is about your ego, because your whole identity is tied up in being the best at doing stuff and the person that solves all the problems. And if you really want to crush it in your business and in your life, you've actually got to let go of that to give other people the limelight, to elevate them, because that's how you can multiply yourself, your efforts, and help more people in your business, make more profit, and actually create a business that gives you some time to enjoy the stuff that you like to enjoy. So this is an interesting one, and it's a sneaky one. This sort of applies with your kids as well. This morning I was helping one of the kids with breakfast, and Evie's only 7, and she's like, Dad, can you put my muffin in the toaster? And I was like, I wanted to be helpful, and I was like, never do anything for your kids that they can do for themselves. I was like, no, love, you can go and do it yourself. But it's very easy. You'd think you're being helpful. You think you're kind of doing what you should. It's helping people out, but often it's not. And the same's in your business. Someone rings up with a question about something. It's like, oh, how do I do this? It's like, well, what do you think? Push it back to them. Make them take the responsibility for it, which actually elevates them. So it can be quite sneaky, this one.
Yeah.
So you've got to be really aware of it. And it's also, a lot of us as business owners, we've grown a business because we like to be in control. And we are, control freaks in a way. And you need to be a control freak actually to run a successful business.
Well, definitely to get one off the ground.
You do,
I think
that's right.
I think that's the key, right? And this is where it becomes difficult, because actually when you first started your business, you probably needed to be the best at everything, and you needed to be a control freak, and you needed to be in everything, because that's what it took to get that thing open and running. But then there comes that tipping point in your business where all of that needs to flip completely, where you're no longer the best person in the business at anything. You're absolutely not a control freak, because as we've said before, scale and control are completely inversely related.
That's right.
So you can't be a control freak anymore, and you actually have to let go of a lot of stuff and take a backward step, and that's what it takes to continue to grow. And so the really hard thing is, for all of the people listening, is all of the stuff that served you really well at the start tends to be all the stuff that holds you back as you get going, and it creates a need where you actually have to make quite a big internal change for the way that you look at things, the way you approach things, and honestly who you are.
Yeah, it's a shift in identity.
Yeah, and it's not easy. It's very difficult. It sounds very simple. It is simple. Hey, just think this way instead of that way. Simple, but it's not easy. And I think that's where this becomes very important work to do with yourself.
It is. And the thing is, if you have this attitude, I'm the best person for the job, you do only have 24 hours a day. You will run out of time. You will run out of energy because you will burn yourself out. You only have limited energy. And for those of you listening who are young, trust me, you do. You won't realize it yet, but you will run out of energy if you just burn it hard the whole time. And you won't enjoy what you're doing.
Yeah.
And the thing is, if you want to grow a business, there's something quite psychological here. If you all you think about, even subconsciously, is if I grow this, it's going to be more stressful and busy for me. You're not going to do it. You'll find a way of sabotaging what you're doing, and that's what happens. And also what happens is, as we've alluded to, you get less access to skills. You've only got your skills. You're not building up the other skills in the business. And I can tell you, if you've got a full-time estimator, they will become very good at estimating. You've got a full-time ops manager, and they're on point. You'll find your margins really improve quite significantly because they're across it and managing it like hour by hour, minute by minute, which is not something you'll be able to do if you're trying to do 3 or 4 jobs at once.
Yeah, I mean, it's impossible. And I think the other thing with this as well is, if you genuinely think you're the best at this and that other people can't be as good as you, it also puts the blinkers on for the fact that, hey, within your business you might be the best, but I want you to think right now, if you're listening, what's something you're incredible at? You're so good. You're so good. Get it in your mind. Now, I just want to tell you, there are other people in the world that are way better than you at that thing. So much better. And so, the difficult thing is, it's like, when you really believe in yourself that other people can't get as good as you in your business, you tend not to even look for learning opportunities outside of your business to put in front of yourself or even your people.
Very true.
And so as a result, you start saying the only thing that my people could possibly learn or get better with is my knowledge, when actually there's people that are so much better than you, and no one in your business, including you, is accessing that knowledge because of your belief system. And so I think the minute that you start thinking, other people in my business could become as good as me, and this stuff can be taught and this stuff can be learned, you start getting that secondary thought of, there's probably even other people that are better than me, and they could learn from them, and we could all get better. And so that opens up a whole new exponential improvement curve, which only can come from that mindset of letting go of the fact that you're incredible at something.
Yeah.
There's always someone better. And it's a really important part of that mindset.
It's massive. And so the key attitude that you want to avoid is, I'm the best person for the job, because that will lock you into that poor, unhappy result. And the way to flip that, the anecdote, if you like, is to think, rather than how do I do this and I must do this, think who should do this. It's a who, not how question. So who do I get to do this? And if I don't have a who in my business, who do I need to hire to do this? Because that's the absolute key to growing a business is the who's. The great people who will take responsibility, own the business results like you will. There are definitely people out there who will do that, and that allows you to leverage your time, which means you can do more. So your revenue goes from $50,000 a month to $100,000 a month to $200,000 to $500,000 to $1 million a month, and that's how you do that. And you create a business that generates great profit. You've got people doing the work. You've got department heads. You've got managers. You've got even a general manager. A lot of who's. That allows you to have a great lifestyle and enjoy the fruits of the hard labor that you've put in. And it's the same amount of hard work as just doing it all yourself. It's just a much better result.
Yeah. Well, it's actually less hard work.
You 100%
do get to a point where, honestly, it's 10 times easier, because you actually don't have to do much to have a lot of impact when you get to the point where you have all the right who's.
Well, you've got so much leverage, right?
That's it. Yeah. So I think that's really key, and this does apply to everything in life. I think it's not just your business; it's everything. It's your relationships. It's your extracurricular activities and hobbies. Like if you want to become really good at a musical instrument, I mean, it's all the same stuff. Don't blame other people or other things for the reason you don't know how to play the guitar. Don't be scared of learning and making mistakes. You will suck at the start. And, don't think that you're the best person to learn from it by just sitting there in the chair on your own. Go and seek an external teacher. Like, it's all the same stuff.
Your health as well is a big one. It's very
health.
easy to blame, I've just got big bones, or, I don't know, I'm not very fast or whatever. It's like, so?
Yeah.
Like that. Look at the attitudes underneath that actually drive those results you're getting. And you shift those, then the whole result shifts.
Again, fear. It's like, I'm going to look like an idiot if I'm running around the streets with my gut hanging out. It's like, yeah, cool, but if you don't run around the street with your gut hanging out, you'll always have a gut hanging out. And again, I'm the best person for the job. It's like, I'm just going to do this on my own rather than getting external help, a personal trainer, a nutritionist, whatever. It doesn't matter what you're doing. These 3 attitudes will hold you back if you don't think about them the right way.
Keep you poor.
But then they will completely unlock everything you've ever wanted if you can flip them on their head. And I think that's really the key. So should we land this plane?
Let's do it. Success is an inside-out job, and getting your internal attitudes right is critical for your business success and to having a happy life. Be on guard for those 3 toxic attitudes and rip them out of your mind. Thanks heaps for listening. We'll catch you all again next time.
See you later.
Congratulations on being part of a select group of savvy business owners who are taking their businesses to the next level. And to help you on your journey, don't forget to check out our show notes for a copy of our free book, The Profitable Tradie, and other valuable resources. Thanks for being a part of this special group, and we'll see you in the next episode of the Profitable Tradie podcast.